Hello, hello. Welcome. As I told you before, I'm going to be doing pretty much multiple episodes today, trying to get my reps back from my vacation. And this time, we'll be diving into fictional motivation. In this fictional motivation, once again, I'll be doing a deep dive, kind of side segue into something that I'm liking or something that I noticed. And one of them that I'm liking is humanizing the villain and why I love that. Hope everyone's having a good day. If you're liking me doing this on multiple videos on one day instead of scattering them throughout the week, or if you just kind of like this any kind of content, please like, share, subscribe. But I'm gonna dive into it real quick. So, in all types of movies, action, fantasy, horror, romance, and comedy, the stereotypical villain, the bad guy, has been someone we possibly sometimes can't relate to. Sometimes. But what I like about the new age villains is that some of them are still cold blooded and possibly insane, while others are so understood it can hurt our hearts and even sometimes scare us a little bit. Now, first batch of villains I'm going to be diving into is, of course, the Spider Man villains. From even the first Spider Man, we kind of noticed this arc of technically they weren't evil. It was just that there was a moment to where they possibly made a decision, and that decision kind of made them go into an evil direction. As they, I forgot what the quote is, but they say, the road to, yeah, the road to somewhere, I say glory or victory or whatnot, is always paved with good intentions. I'm probably killing that paraphrase, but basically what I remember from that quote is that most of these most of these villains started out as good people. And as they're trying to do something, they kind of did something that took right instead of left. And because of that, and they kept going at it, it kind of made them villains on accident. Good example, starting from past Spider-Man movies to current Spider-Man movies, even though thanks to the latest Spider-Man movie, they're all mixed in together now. So you should have a good idea. Is the Green Goblin, first one. Green Goblin would be almost the exception, except his evil side could technically be tossed also in the mental health side. Because the evil voice that tells you to do something and you try to deny it, and then all of a sudden you do it. Or that time to where you are doing something or you're talking with somebody and for some reason you black out. And then when you kind of come back, they say that you've done this crazy thing or this dark thing or this interesting thing. Pretty close to that. I think Green Goblin fits that mark very well. Because when you saw, he was a good scientist trying to get a super serum. And since he didn't have enough time to experiment with it more, he decided to test on himself, which came across with some very interesting and dark side effects. The other villain that's pretty much right after that movie is Doc Ock. He pretty much was ruined by having no control over the mechanical arms that inhibit his voice. Remember, in the movie, there was a chip that made sure it kept their voices and his mind separate. But once the accident happened, they kind of ruined that chip. So they kind of influenced him. They could talk to him. And on top of that, he had a little bit of an unhealthy ambition. Unhealthy ambition being that pretty much in the first movie that we see him, Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire, he wanted to make the sun, and he wanted to make the sun the power source, even if it kind of put everyone else at risk. He was still on that. Going into it, and Spider-Man 3, Sandman. Still the Tobey Maguire saga is what I like to dub it. Pretty much is in the wrong place at the right time. He was trying to get out from somewhere. He managed to slide into this mechanical thing that kind of messes with sand and whatnot, and it messed with his body in a way in a genetic level to the point to where he can now form and flow as if he was made of sand. And on top of that, he was still trying to battle some bad habits. We all have bad habits we're trying to battle. And if you don't, you need to call me because I need to know how you did it. But he was pretty much bad habit of desperate for money. So of course he uses new power to start to robbery. So it happens when we're pretty much sometimes at our lowest lows. That's when we come up with stupid stuff, and that's when we sometimes also come up with a salvationing moment in a way. Moving on, this is now going into the Andrew Garfield saga of Spider-Man. We have Lizard Man, who intentionally didn't want to be 100% that, but as usual, as per with the Green Goblin, he was kind of forced to experiment on his own self because he needed to get these results quicker. And there was no other test subject better to test on human trials than himself. He saw some, besides the animal side, besides the beast within, he noticed some good side effects, and he wanted everyone to be lizard-like hybrid so that he could make them better. They can be immune to disease, they can grow their limbs faster because he was missing a limb, and he's done the transformation a good amount of times to where he noticed that the more he did that, he would have a limb that would connect. He would have an arm again, in that sense. So he thought he wanted to do that with everybody else. Technically, it's not good to make everybody lizard people, but like I said, good person, kind of a dark intention, started to go evil real quick. Then we have Electro from the second movie. Pretty much wrong place, wrong time. He was going somewhere. He fell into this tank with eels and some kind of solution, turned him into the electric guy. And this is also a sign of someone who just wanted to feel important and known, because throughout the whole thing, he didn't have good fame. He wasn't getting the respect that he deserved. And you can always see how when someone really wants to get the respect they deserve or wants to be known and wants to be important, they sometimes go through dark lengths to go through that, or sometimes lengths that make them not 100% good. And we all hear the stories, you know. Sometimes we hear this from certain people getting jobs, some people getting into certain industries that they have to do something vile or something they know in their heart, in their code, they wouldn't do. But in order for them to get to that spot, they have no choice. Electro was pretty much the same thing, is that he got into an accident, mostly because he didn't feel like he was known. And then he realized that even though he was doing bad things, he was getting known for it. He was getting attention. And isn't that sometimes all that we need? Just as sometimes in his case, people like that go in his direction, they may also get attention in the wrong kind of way. They may think that doing bad things, doing dark things, doing evil things is the right way to go when it's not. And he's a good example of that. We even have the young Green Goblin in here, which I was like 50-50 about. The person, the young Green Goblin, he pretty much played off kind of played the same way of Electro, only instead of needing attention, he wanted help. He was sick, and he would do anything to heal that condition, even if that meant getting a serum that turned him into a psychomaniac. That's what happened. That's what he took. And pretty much we see near the end of the movie that he still has the nooks and crannies of that serum, but he was fine with the decision that he made, because now he's better. Sometimes doing the wrong thing for better is not the best thing. Moving on, this is now going into the Tom Holland saga of Spider-Man. We have the Vulture, and the Vulture kind of hits home a lot closer than I think, because this can be happening right now, which is The Vulture was pretty much a guy who lost his alien cleaning job. He was cleaning off alien. He was cleaning pretty much the leftover alien remnants from past invasions in New York, and he was doing a good job. He was getting paid. He had a steady job, and then the government took that from him, which means he lost his job. So what do you do after that? Well, you he went to the direction with him and his buddies that he was signed on with, that he would go and steal alien tech, craft it in a way to see if he can make it as weapons, and sell it as an underground arms dealer, or have his buddies sell it as underground arms dealers. And he even made a little interesting suit out of it himself so that he can continue stealing stuff. Like I said, that hits a lot of home. That hits very close to home because a lot of people possibly may be leaving jobs, possibly may be needing a job. And because they may be trapped into that thing where I need this money, they may decide to go dark and do the horrible thing to get that money. We could all be put in that pinch. And it takes our strength, our code, the virtue that we know that we have inside of us to go, I want to try our best to go right and not go left. But yeah, that hits all the Spider-Man ones. Now we're going into movies that are pretty much in different villains that are in different Marvel universes that we can concur with. One of the popular ones is from Black Panther, Killmonger. Had a dream with his father to go back to the homeland. His father was from pretty much Wakanda. He wanted to tell him about it. He wanted to take him there. Father got killed by the Black Panther, or it looked like it was the Black Panther. And technically, Killmonger, as a kid, decided that he'd make his vengeance by one day being able to train for his whole life to take out Black Panther and be in a better position of power. And you see that pretty much through his background story of him, or in the movies. You see him in the movie, you see him pretty much going through that background story of going into the military. Every confirmed kill he's had, he marks on himself. Kind of the a very African tradition. Only from what I remember, that's kind of part of becoming from child to adult, if I remember correctly. And he took it as pretty much as how many kills as he's gotten to kind of conceive how strong he's gotten. But he's kind of used that as a means so he can overthrow, so he can take out the Black Panther and become king and use his ability to help send weapons to other people who are oppressed. And as usual, in that same way, he had a good heart. Something happened. He kind of went dark. And because of that darkness, he pretty much was a very big monster of ambition, because he knew that if he not only took out Black Panther, not only would he get his vengeance, but if he became a person in power, he could help other people, maybe people who would do the wrong thing, to get them weapons so they can balance the scales a little bit, which all in all is not really good. I want to keep the scales balanced. And yes, I do want the right, the good to win, but make sure it's at a good structure, good pace, not at a pace to where it looks like all out war is going to happen. Going into, this is the big one, Thanos. Pretty much Thanos, he saw his civilization die because he had a method, he had a way, he had a plan of, okay, this is what we have to do. But if we don't do this, we're going to die. He saw that happen on his planet, in his civilization. And because he saw that, he made it his life mission to do that with every planet. And once he got the stones, he did that in the galaxy. This pretty much goes to show that sometimes when people experience certain kinds of trauma, they want to make sure they prevent certain kinds of trauma from happening. However, depending on how that trauma is gone about on how to prevent it, it can be both in a good way or in a bad way. And in Thanos, he chose the bad way of forcing half of every uh, population on the planet in the galaxy to be gone which in one half he now sees or he now feels that he's accomplished the fact of now they'll live on in abundance. But as you saw pretty much in the movies, for a while there was confusion, there was sorrow, there was doubt, there was fear, there was broken people because when he made that wish, it didn't select a whole it wasn't 100% selectable. And even if it was 100% selectable, it still would have hurt. It just chose and just did it. And that wrecked a lot of people. So once again, because he saw that, he wanted to make that change for everybody, except that change for everybody was not healthy. It was not a good way. And the last villain that I related to, this is pretty much from one of the recents. Pretty much this is from the Shang-Chi and the Rings movie, is his father, Wen Wu. Technically, he started out as a villain. He was pretty much his whole life, he's been a conqueror. He went out, he won wars, he won kingdoms, he controlled kingdoms. I mean, he was just an all-out boss. And then he got conquered by love, by a woman. Because of that, he decided to set aside the mob boss life, the conqueror's life, so he can have some peace, so he can have some love. And in the beginning, that should be a good story right there. The fact that someone was evil and went to good is a good story. But what happened in the movie, spoiler alert, is that men came looking for him and they killed his wife. And because of that, he kind of saw it as not only as his past coming to him, but he also saw it as if I was still that conqueror, if I still had that dog, if I still had that mob boss mentality, they would even never step up to me like that. They would never step up to my family like that. And because of that, feeding into his brain, he decided, you know what? I'm gonna become a conqueror again. I'm gonna become a mob boss again. I'm gonna go twice as hard and twice as ruthless. And that's how he became the legendary guy that he is, that he was pretty much in the movie, and a talent, a vicious force of nature that he was. But pretty much you see that, it all happened because men was looking for him and they killed his wife. If they came and tried to kill him, he'd probably be okay with that. But what happened was they killed his wife. And just like an old revenge tale, you kill someone's family members and leave them alive, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be plotting revenge. And he plotted the revenge in the worst kind of way. So instead of going, you know what, I'm just going to go after them, he just went, I'm going to go after everybody. And on top of that, I'm going to get back in my conqueror mindset so that nobody will ever step to me like this again. Sometimes people hurt. As the saying goes, hurt people hurt people. And he wanted to express that to the fullest. Anyways, I know it's kind of meant on as a nice little long tangent, but I hope that you like this content. If there's any other villains that pop into your head, whether it be from Marvel, because I know most of these was from Marvel, but if you know it from other fictional characters, fictional stories, books, comic books, and all that stuff, please send a comment. Please comment. I'd like to know more pretty much villains who can be humanized. But I wanted to do this to kind of show that pretty much the hero, and the villain are two sides of the coin, technically. As pretty much the Punisher put it from Daredevil season 2, sometimes we're all just one bad day away from being a hero or being a villain. And with that, I encourage everyone to make sure to try their best to be the hero. I'm your host, Quan. Hope everybody's doing awesome, doing well. I'm going to start off the next video soon, and deuces.